everyone. Today I will be taking another fan request and I will be discussing uplifting songs, or I guess you could call them my favorite songs to listen to when I need some sort of happiness to be put on me if there was a bad day that was going on. And I think I would just title this in particular my favorite optimistic songs, or songs that I feel reflect the sense of optimism, at least within me. So without further ado, let me kind of discuss those kinds of songs. Now the first one I'm going to briefly address is Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. I think this one is fairly interesting in how it approaches optimism, in the sense of like that every day is a new day. Here comes the sun, do. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. It sort of has this sense of, I guess, lazy optimism. It's kind of interesting because it doesn't sound so like, yeah, go out and do something proactive, but it does have this sort of very soothing, sort of relaxing tone to it that sort of embraces the idea of it's okay to maybe have, negative feelings, but overall, here comes the sun. It's a new day, there's new opportunities, and it's alright. You can just relax, you can just enjoy yourself, you can kind of let go of whatever issue it is that you feel you're going through, and try to bring out the happiness within yourself. And I think it's very simplistic in that sense of being that kind of a song. Some people, I think, argue that this song in particular addresses love, and that the sun sort of represents the person that they love within their life. And I guess you could interpret it in that sense, but I think more generally it's a very uplifting song, but it's interesting because it doesn't really uplift you in a way to where you want to accomplish anything, but rather that you'd rather just take everything in and just sort of relax and, try not to do anything and just say to yourself it's going to be okay. Not really proactively trying to go out and do something about the problem, but realize that it's okay to have problems and it's okay to feel sad, but just sit back and sort of enjoy yourself and enjoy the simple comforts that are a part of life, I guess. And at least that's how I sort of interpret the song, in particular with the instrumentals as well as within the lyrics. So I would definitely recommend that song and consider it to probably be one of my favorite optimistic type songs. Now the next one I'm going to discuss is also fairly famous, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and you can pick whichever version that you like. I personally enjoy the Judy Garland version the most, because not only is it the original, but I feel it embodies sort of the sense of optimism through the film, because as you see, within The Wizard of Oz, you see Dorothy's character sort of going through something, and then you sort of hear the song being played, and it sort of brings out optimism, I think, in a different way than the Beatles song does, because it conveys optimism as a sense of that you can accomplish whatever you dream of accomplishing. Especially with the one line of the song where it goes, if happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why oh why can't I? So the whole point of this song in particular, with dealing with optimism and trying to take away these sort of bad emotions is I think it sort of uplifts you in the way of, if there are sad times for other people, if there is these kinds of emotions that people are going through, who's to say that I can't overcome them like they did? And I think sort of Somewhere Over the Rainbow embodies that sense of Americana type feeling of optimism by expressing it through a sense of, that it doesn't matter what you lack in life. You just need to go out and keep exploring and keep going, and just to have somebody tell you that you can't do it really puts a damper, I think, on a lot of people, and brings out the sadness within them. But if they turn to this song, they'll see how, not just within its lyrics, but also with its sort of kind of traditional classic feel, it really does sort of bring out that whole idea of hope and moving forward and going beyond of what trouble you're in and rising above it. And it's fairly dreamlike in its approach, but I feel like it really offers something fairly deep, even though the song itself is rather simplistic. And I really do find myself immersing myself through this kind of emotional stance that the song takes with sort of the concept of optimism and trying to fill yourself with happy emotions. And I think even though it's not really like completely go-lucky and, out there and party-like, it feels really deep, but also addresses itself in a fairly simplistic light that can be identifiable for anyone. So I think that's really what in particular makes that song really stand out. So yes, I would definitely say that's one of my favorite optimistic songs. The next one that I wanted to briefly address is Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. And this song in particular, I think, has an interesting way of addressing optimism. And again, it is sort of, I guess, similar, you could say, to the Beatles, though, with the whole concept of, it's okay, you can let go, doesn't matter what's going on, just enjoy the scenery around you, don't worry about a thing, every little thing's going to be alright. I think it has that similar kind of attitude, but I do like it for its ability to sort of kind of reach out to its audience directly and say, don't worry about a thing, every little thing is going to be alright. It has a way of grasping, I think, the audience in not so much through, I guess, like metaphor like the other two songs we're trying to do, with like Somewhere Over the Rainbow or Here Comes the Sun. It kind of just reaches out to the audience directly and says, don't worry about a thing, every little thing is going to be alright. Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun, three little birds pitch by my doorstep, singing sweet songs, telling me blah, blah, blah. It's really, I think, trying to reach to the audience by making them as the narrator, because, again, it is sort of about Bob Marley going out and then seeing these three birds and then telling him that it's okay, you don't have to worry. But again, it kind of has that simplistic tone to it, but I think it has a way of grasping the audience in a more direct way by making it more directive to you as opposed to a concept, like the other two songs we're talking about, which were, again, a little bit more conceptual with the concept of a rainbow, concept of the sun. So it really is addressing that whole aspect, while still adding, I guess, a little bit of metaphor by having three little birds come and, be that voice of sort of optimism to the narrator, in particular Bob Marley, and I think that's why a lot of people really relate to the song and grasp to the song, because it presents itself in a more direct way to the audience and tries to give them a sense of, wonderment and a sense of, woo, you don't need to worry, it's all going to be okay, and, just relax. And I think it has that sort of interesting approach to it, so I think it's definitely something worth recommending. Now, the next song that I'm going to mention is actually fairly interesting in how it addresses sort of optimism. And it's called Always Look on the Brighter Side of Life, or On the Bright Side of Life, meant to say, by the movie The Life of Brian. Yes, this song. What I really enjoy about this song and how it addresses optimism is it's fairly laughable. I enjoy the aspect of laughing at how ridiculous life is sometimes. I really enjoy that. Kind of similar to one of the breakup songs that I mentioned in a video a while back while I was discussing music, where it's kind of a joking song. It sort of makes you laugh at yourself, sort of. And it was also in a movie, The Wedding Singer. I believe it was called Love Stinks. And I sort of feel the similar way as I feel to that song as I feel to this song in particular, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. And the interesting thing about this song is it plays at the end of the film, where you basically see the main character who's basically being crucified along with a lot of other individuals. And they sort of sing, about how you always got to look on the brighter side of life. Life is, it sucks, but you know what? You always got to try to reach for something more. And, regardless of whatever happens to you in life, you should always look on what optimism there is and bring out the positive energy. And I really like how this song addresses it. It addresses it in such a comedic and really laughable way. Like, I can't help but laugh as the guy is singing the song and how he just expresses everything. And I think it just fully encapsulates what a lot of people feel when they feel maybe depressed or sad or lonely. That whole idea of filling people with a sense of laughter and a sense of not taking life so seriously really kind of brings out the sense of optimism and the sense of picking people up from whatever problem that they're going through. So I really would say that I enjoy this one in particular for being that sort of comedic song. And that's why I think a lot of people like comedies, because it sometimes addresses very depressing like subjects, but in a way that allows us to sort of laugh. So again, I think this song in particular does it really well, and I think it's something that I would recommend as a optimistic song and one of my personal favorites. Now, the next song I'm going to address is it's a fairly famous yet cheesy song. And this song is called Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. And oh yeah, I put this in the optimistic category because who does not, who has maybe not heard of a karaoke version of this song, and who has maybe not come across this song maybe in a bar or some kind of location like that. And what happens at bars? Well, sometimes people get a little tipsy, or they might be actually going through something, and they're trying to find a bar to sort of, clear their mind or clear their head. And who's maybe not heard of this song being played at a karaoke bar? And what I mean by this whole scenario that I'm setting up for this song is that it has a way of, I think, bringing this very, very, very upbeat, positive energy that I think a lot of people identify with, especially considering the fact that it's a very karaoke version, or a very karaoke type song, or karaoke, like it's played at karaoke bars a lot, I think. And this song, I think, brings out a lot of optimism, even though it is reflecting sort of kind of a story, I guess, because, you have this just a small town girl living in a lonely world, and then you have just a city boy born and raised in South Detroit. They took the midnight train going anywhere. You can kind of, I guess, interpret it however you want, if really Journey's trying to get a story across, or if it's just kind of random. But I think, though, ultimately what I find so energizing and optimistic about this song is how the singer in particular addresses the lyrics, and how he's just so invested and so out there and so just bold and in your face, that I think it can uplift anybody that is that is not feeling so good in a bar setting or in any other setting in particular, because it just has that punch to it, that whole concept of don't stop believing, hold on to that feeling, just this whole energy that this song brings out, I think is just so, it just elevates. I think it just has the nature of elevating people, and I think that's why the song in particular is so popular. I mean, my whole theory behind the bar could not be possible, but that's at least the way I kind of see the song. So I guess that's sort of my interpretation of it. Just somebody who can be at a low in their life and then have this song play at a bar and then lift them up. I think it's possible. I'm not saying that it did, or that it would ever happen, or that it did happen or did not happen. But I'm saying this kind of, I guess, just scenario, I think, works to what I'm trying to say that the song encapsulates, which is basically the whole idea of taking whatever you've just experienced at whatever location, whatever place, and sort of transcending that into some kind of uplifting voice that sort of tells you to, don't stop believing. Just keep going, keep yourself, lift yourself up, and eventually things will fall in place. Don't stop believing. So I guess that's how I would interpret the song. But yeah, I think ultimately, though, that's really all I can say about Journey's song in particular. Now, the final song I wanted to discuss addresses, I think, optimism in a non-direct sort of way, but I think in a very identifiable way. And that song is "What a Wonderful World" by Louis Armstrong. Now, you might be wondering, well, isn't that song just about how wonderful the world is? And, isn't it just this happy, simple song? Yes, it is. And again, it doesn't really address optimism like the other songs that I've mentioned, where it has words that sort of emphasize the point. But what it does do is I think it takes the simplistic aspects of life, and it makes you see how fortunate you are as a person. At least that's how I envision the song. I look at myself and I look at the fortunes that I have, and then I realize, I am living in a wonderful world, and, I shouldn't be in this state of misery or sadness. I should explore the sense of optimism in any situation that I come across. and that I can reach for things and realize that there's always these simple things that will be around, like icy skies of blue and clouds of white, and the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. Just simple things that I think people can take for granted. They don't realize how that these simple things really bring out the optimism within them. And I think this song in particular sort of encapsulates this idea of taking the simplistic things of life and turning it sort of into a feeling of optimism, because it focuses on showing you the simplicity of life, and therefore you understand the appreciation of life, and you look at life in a more optimistic and therefore happy way. So ultimately, though, I think that's really all I can say about all these songs. I will be sure to put links to all of these songs so you may listen to them and you may view them for your listening pleasure. And I will try to put Judy Garland's version along with the, I believe it's kind of like a Hawaiian ukulele version. I'm so sorry, I don't remember the man's name who sings the song, but I will try to put his version in as well if you enjoy that version over the Judy Garland version. But yeah, I think ultimately that's really all I can say. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But until next time, everybody,